How can you personalize your messaging to physicians for greater prescription intent? What are people saying about your brand? How can you make your marketing efforts more precise and effective? These and many more questions are answered on this podcast, which is here to serve as a playbook for all your pharma marketing needs. As your host, Saumya Prakash, co-founder of Multiplier AI Solutions, sits across pharma industry's top experts. This is your place to get all the insights about Gen AI, data, and beyond.
So, hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Pharma Marketing Playbook Data, Gen AI, and Beyond. Your go to podcast for mastering pharmaceutical marketing, data analytics, and AI trends. Join industry leaders as we explore cutting edge strategies, the role of emerging technology, and how data driven insights are transforming the pharma landscape. Tune in for more actionable insights to stay ahead in the fast evolving world of pharma marketing. I'm Saumya Prakash, co founder at Multiplier AI, and today we have a very special guest joining us, Mr. Alhad Mahajani. Mr. Alhad Mahajani is an esteemed leader in pharmaceutical marketing and a dedicated mentor to rising talent in the industry. His academic credentials include a Bachelor of Pharmacy from Pune College of Pharmacy, an MBA in Marketing, and executive certifications in Sustainable Business Strategy from Harvard Business School and Digital Transformation from SPGIMR. His career journey began as a medical representative at Lupin, progressing through roles as product executive at Chirac Pharma and Glenmark Pharmaceuticals. He then advanced to senior product manager at Blue Cross Laboratories, held the position of group product manager at Alchem Laboratories, and later served as marketing manager at Vanbury Limited before becoming vice president of marketing at Juventus Healthcare Limited in Mumbai. Currently, Mr. Alhad is an angel investor with Inflection Point Ventures and a mentor at Heat India, where he actively shares his expertise and passion for innovation and growth. We are very glad to have you today with us today, and thank you so much for joining our show, sir.
Thank you, Soumya. It is my pleasure and privilege to be on your show. Right, I have heard a couple of episodes earlier. I've seen them, and I think so. It's a great initiative from your end to bring up the pharma marketing efforts. Right, great efforts. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. So, to begin with, we would like to dive a little bit into how all this started in your career journey. You started as a medical representative and then grew up the ranks to vice president of marketing with such esteemed organizations. Could you share your journey and what were some of the pivotal experiences and insights that helped you share and shape your career?
That's a very nice question, and I'll have to go back to maybe 30 years of my career. When I started as a medical rep with Lupin, right, there have been a few instances which have been etched in my mind, indelible kind of experiences, which have helped me, throughout my career. If you don't mind, a couple of instances to share. I finished my pharmacy the day I finished my exams, the final exams, right? On the next day, there was this walk-in interview from Lupin, and I had planned my journey back to Mumbai, packing all the bags, etc., and going back. And the interview was supposed to be at 11 a.m. I joined the interview, and then the interview got delayed. My train was at 6 p.m. And I asked my area business manager who was interviewing me, sir, I have a train to catch. I am permanently shifting to Mumbai because I finished my studies. And what he told me was, Allah, that is your life. It is your decision. We have shortlisted you, right? I am not guaranteeing you a job, but you stand a fair chance. So this is a decision which you have to take, whether you would remain here for some time or catch the train back to Mumbai. And this sentence of his, that it is your life, it is your decision, has remained with me for ever till now. That any decision which you take has to be your own decision, considering the facts, some risks, etc. This was the one instance which is etched in my in my memory, and which even today influences my decision making. Right, that it is your life and your career. This was one. The second instance as a medical rep was on the first day of my job. I happened to meet a leading physician from Pune, right? After I took over the job, and in a hurry to communicate, I said, "So my brand is cheap as compared to other alternative options." And he said, "Have you been trained?" So I said, "No, sir. This is my first day." So he said, "Sit." He said, "If you're going to call your product as cheap, then how in the world am I going to prescribe your product, right?" So, this is another instance which has remained with me, that when you communicate about your brand, never devalue your brand. And this directly came from a customer, which has remained with me. So this is another instance. The third instance was in relation to when I attended a interview for a senior product manager position, right? And the interviewer, MD of a company, told me, "Why do you want to change?" And I told him, "Sir, I want greater responsibilities." Right? And he said, "Good, you want greater responsibilities. But then, along with responsibilities, you have to take accountability for results as well. If you don't give me results, I will slice you down." And that has remained with me forever, that when you want bigger responsibilities, accountability comes along and you have to deliver results, whatever may be the situation or circumstances, right? So these three instances have shaped up my career. And the fourth instance is where was the COVID part of it. During COVID, there were a couple of months when, as a company, we did zero business, and there was a game of survival, right? And that is when we were pushed into learning of technology and becoming digital, right? And adopt and learned that if you need to survive, you need to adopt technology, be adaptable, right? And be willing to learn. And this has remained with me. And this is how, if you really look at uh, the second part of my career, the second phase of my career, in the later part as a vice president, my learning receptors went up, right? And that is how I actually try to imbibe, what digital is all about and how it can make a difference to a pharma company in terms of reach, in terms of the other benefits. And so the COVID, when it was a fight for survival kind of, it taught me a couple of lessons. So these are a few factors, which have remained with me and which have paved from going from a vice president of marketing. And another thing is, in every role in every organization, there have been my seniors who have always played a guiding role, right? They have given necessary freedom, necessary insights, and I attribute a lot of my success to them. So without their efforts, without their guidance, this would not have been possible. So I mean, there's a deep sense of gratitude to each one of them.
No, no, thank you so much. I think that's a very well thought of and well crafted response, because your journey has thrown light into various aspects. How difficulties or challenges have become a kind of enabler for changes, for transformations, whether it was the COVID duration or whether it was earlier change of roles. And of course, the accountability piece. It's extremely important, I think, in today's competitive world.
Yeah,
And all our young listeners and audience, I think it's a lesson to be learned from senior leadership that results and accountability matter, and efforts are a way to reach results. And I
results.
think that's
Right.
that's the key message there. Thank you so much for that
Thank you.
response.
Thank you.
Since you have seen pre-COVID pharma industry, how it was run, and in your long span of career, you've also seen post-COVID how digital has become so much mainstream today, and we can't think of businesses run the way they used to run. It's just kind of impossible to do it that way.
Right.
So how do you, what's your perspective on what's the growing influence of digital channels on pharma industry, and your perspective on that, how it's going to evolve?
That's a very nice question, because I think so. This question is being raised in every forum, right? And what would be the role of digital? Just to look at evolution of the pharma industry. In year 2000, I remember the pharma industry was somewhere around 20,000 crores. Today it is 2,20,000 crore plus. So it has grown by 10 times plus, right? So there has been a definitive change in the marketing processes, marketing thoughts, and digital is one of them, definitely, right? If we look at, there were two major pain points for the industry when we look at marketing strategies. Not pain points precisely, but areas where the industry could grow. One was the reach. Yesterday, I was looking at a few data points, and if you look at, there are about 13 lakh HCPs registered in various state medical councils, total all India. Now, for a pharma company to reach more than maybe 2.5 lakh doctors, it is impossible with the physical resources which we have. And therefore this reach part of it, urban, rural, right, it's very difficult for a industry people, personnel, and the company to reach 13 lakh doctors. So 100% is not coverage. 100% coverage is practically not possible, right? I think so there is one definitive advantage of going digital is in terms of getting better reach for a pharma company. So this addresses, digital addresses that particular point of reach. The second point, which has been not a pain point but an opportunity, is in terms of giving personalized messages about our brands or maybe about the organization, to these HCPs or even to patients, right? And this is where I think so digital is again here to stay, because this helps you reach patients directly, right? I was just looking at practically the number of patients which a company can reach is enormous when you approach, or when you imbibe, or you decide on to adopt digital technologies. So both these aspects of reach and personalization of messages and communication become possible with digital approaches which could be imbibed or adopted by a pharma company. So this change of digital is going to stay. Of course, this digital approach is not going to replace your physical. So it's going to be a combination of physical and digital, what is now being called as digital, right? But I think so the importance and dependence on digital technologies to ensure reach and personalization of communication is going to change the way the industry is going to function, right? So this is I think so another aspect of digital would be in terms of data driven strategies from marketing. Now if you really look at, if a company has to reach doctors, and if it has to design messages which are personalized, I think so data is going to be the key in terms of what insights you get from the data. So that is going to be another aspect which is going to be very, very important. Third thing which is happening is, I think so, online relationships with HCPs. Earlier it was only physical relationships, but nowadays there is online relationships with communication through webinars, communication through meets, endorsement, KOL meets on online. So online relationships is something which is going to stay. This is, I think so, take on digital technologies, and this is where the market is going to evolve.
Sure. I think, yeah, I mean, the world is moving digital, so we can find, you mentioned very rightly, the online relationship is a very nice term, and we should definitely introspect about, how things are going to change and how it would be so different from what we used to do with just a handshake and a smile and meeting. And today it's going to be so very different. Since you've managed so many products, under your leadership as a group product manager, any particular learnings when you are launching and positioning a particular product in a very highly competitive market that you would like to share with our listeners who are brand managers, who are looking into marketing lessons?
What has been my learning over the years, right, from marketing perspective, is we need to really understand the what you can say, the clinical approach to a patient for a particular disease or a disorder, right? What is currently being line of therapy, right? And for positioning of a product, I think so this deep understanding of place in therapy of the molecule becomes very, very essential. And I'll give you a classical example. We launched a third generation cephalosporin, which was an injectable. And when we did a competitive survey or perceptual mapping of the various molecules which are being used and the promotion of those molecules, what we found, this was way back in 2001, 2002, that there was no injectable cephalosporin which was perceived as a life-saving drug. I'm talking about 2000 to 2003, right? There was no meropenem in the market, and cefotaxime was on its way down, right? There was a multinational company which was the originator of this molecule, right? And they had positioned it as an head to toe kind of antibiotic. When we did a thorough analysis of the molecule per se, what is the place in therapy, and what were the customer insights as regards usage of that particular antibiotic, when we did some surveys, we found that there is a gap in terms of molecule being used as a life-saving cephalosporin, and that is where we positioned that particular molecule as a life-saving cephalosporin. And within say 3 years of time, it was a number one prescribed antibiotic and number one in its segment,
Oh.
right? So what this taught me, and probably this is a lesson for all, that as a brand manager, if we are able to identify current gaps in the therapy, what is the relevance of the benefits of those molecules in the in terms of its promotion, what are the USPs, and if we are able to synchronize the therapy gap from the doctor's perspective and position the products in accordance, I think so there is an immense opportunity for the brand or the molecule to get established in Indian market in spite of competition being there. So this is one example which comes to my mind, right? Apart from that, a thorough insight into customers perceptions becomes very very important, right? To prepare a good communication for the brand, right? So this is what is my learning.
No, I think very practical insights, and thank you for sharing those. Also, would like to delve a little bit more deep, on the patient centricity aspect and the angle to all these communications campaigns that we design. It's increasingly becoming more emphasized, that patient centricity has to become a kind of mainstream to our designs.
Yes.
So how do you believe you have implemented this in your campaigns, and would you like to share some example or instance where this worked or it didn't work? Anything that you could share?
Okay. See, I think so. Patient centricity per se would theoretically be defined as keeping patient at the center of each of your decision making process, right? That would be defined as patient centricity. Now, we had a classical example when we launched an app which was in conjunction with Indian Academy of Pediatrics, right? Which was a growth chart app for patients to monitor their child's growth, right? Now, the app was such design that it could be used by a pediatrician or it could be used by a patient as well, right? And for first 6 to 7 months it ran wonderfully well, and we got about 10,000 doctors and about 16 to 17,000 registering in first 6 months of time. This was in way back in 2016-17. So early registration was fantastic, right? But then came in the issue of data privacy and what you say, security. And IAP said that you since you get an access to patients' data and you're getting access to doctors' data, you could utilize it as an organization, right? And actually, if you look at, we had no access to that data because it was all encrypted, right? But then what happened was we had to really take out all the permissions and approvals from the app, and that is how we actually now the app runs, but we could not get any data as to how the patients have really used the app, right? Now the problem here is that we were getting some feedbacks and insights from patients directly, as to how to improve that app and make it more useful, right? uh,
Mm,
Now, with these issues coming in, right, uh, we are away from the patient feedback, which would have helped us actually build the app better or maybe improved on the app. So what happened was that we designed an app for the patient through an HCP's angle, not from the patient's angle.
Okay.
Okay, and this is where I think so one of the major aspects. In fact, I am doing my doctorate in business administration in the topic of patient centricity, and I have interviewed about 2,000 patients online, right, to know their expectations from the pharma companies, right. What are the expectations of pharma companies in terms of their support, right? Uh, and what I found is that it sometimes so happens that we design apps and from HCP's angle for the patient. I think so. We need to really build on the patient's insights and patient's expectations so that we can build real good patient support programs and keep on improving on them. So I think so. This is one very important aspect which I thought I must share here. That I think so. Patient, we have social listening, right? But I think so. We need to build up our skills on patient listening as well, so that we can really close. We can deliver to what they expect. Right. So this is one of my learnings about patients.
Yeah, it's very interesting, the way you mentioned on patient listening, and I think combining that with data strategy
Yes.
and looking at it from a 360-degree perspective on how the patient is reacting to a new launch treatment or an app or anything that we are introducing, and it's a change.
Change.
So how do they perceive this change? Are they welcoming it? Are they able to adhere to it? I think all these are practical challenges, and
Yeah,
yeah, I
and
think
one more
marketeers
aspect,
do
if you
face
permit
this.
me, one more aspect, if you permit me. When I was working with the patients, I could find that there is even some amount of trust deficit from the patient side for pharmaceutical companies, because they tend to believe that if pharma is going to provide me with some help, uh, is the motive pure altruistic, or is there some hidden benefit to it? So there is some amount of I think so trust deficit with pharma companies as well, and I think so this also needs to be addressed if patient centricity is to be accepted by the patients from pharma companies. Right? Because what
Yeah,
happens
that's
is,
that.
yeah, what happens is a pharma company, why is it trying to help the patient, and what is the patient psychology? So if you look at from patient psychology, there is a change in behavior which he has to adopt, and any change of behavior, right, becomes very very difficult unless and until it has some consistency and there is a solid trust between the two parties, right? So this is one of my learnings about patient centricity. Yeah.
True. I think the trust factor is so important because you just actually, kind of go with your physician's advice and the drug that he's prescribing. Though today patients are, increasingly more aware, they do consult Google and
Yeah.
they come prepared with questions. So that's also there. Yeah, yeah. But at the same time, I think the trust factor, in healthcare is something that that always is the foundation for any kind of relationship. But looking forward, from where the industry is today, and with the advent of more inflow of data from devices, from social listening, patient feedback, forums, and whatnot, how do you see the role of pharma marketeers evolve going forwards in next 10, 15 years, and also how will they imbibe AI into all this, interweave these together?
uh, See, if we look at uh, patient centricity is here to stay. I'll tell you a classical example. When we look at the time amount of time spent by HCP with the patient on an average worldwide, it is about 17 minutes. In India, it is about 2 minutes. Right, that is the time spent by an HCP with a physician on an average. Now, imagine in those 2 minutes, he is going to diagnose the patient. He is going to advise him of the medications. He is going to prescribe, and he is going to probably counsel the patient as well. Right. Now, if you look at all this, right, uh, I think so. There is a lot of opportunity for the pharma company to fill in that role of serving the patients. Right. That is there. Uh, because adherence, compliance to medication, knowing about the side effect profile, solving his queries about, if there is something which he wants to know. So an HCP probably may not be available, and this is an area where probably there is a role for pharma industry, right, in terms of serving the patients through patient support program. Now, to understand this, I think so, whatever data which we get, right, if we are able to develop an insight through that data as to what is real pain point of the patient, right, why does he behave the way he behaves, right, if this data could be converted into an insight, probably pharma companies would be able to use that not only to serve the patients better, but also develop a competitive advantage out of it over other companies, right. And this is where I think so all of us marketeers need to probably understand AI. Now, we are not masters in AI. What we have to look at is, agencies like you, which provide the data. How do we develop that into an insight and design a program, which would be accepted by the HCPs and the patients? This is where the real skill, I think so, needs to be developed. And this would happen once we, tend to keep on repeatedly look at the data to develop that insight. And therefore, I think so, data driven analytics through AI is going to be a key factor for a pharma company to succeed in terms of developing messages and personalized messages, targeted messages for success. Have I answered your question, or
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, and you have also brought into light, one of the restrictions or real challenges of a pharma company. See, pharma companies have to, right from the research stage, formulate it, figure out the sales and distribution network, build the relationships with the physicians, also take care of the patient. So many compliances are there in the entire. That is why it is one of the most heavily regulated and complex landscapes.
yes,
Now we bring in more complexity with data, and then we expect pharma marketeers to become champions in AI. I think it's kind of way too
expected?
much,
Yeah,
to expect from one single person to do. And I think that's where, maybe companies like us can come in and bridge that gap, because we understand how to strategize the data,
right.
and you understand the pharma world, and that's where, various players in the ecosystem can add value to each other and benefit at the end of the day the physician relationship, as well as the patient satisfaction and outcomes.
Outcomes.
So I think that's where I think you were, kind of gaining, and it struck me that it's just too much to expect, from a pharma marketer to know it all.
Yeah, and basically, I think so. We'll have to develop a skill of analyzing the results or outcomes of what technology has provided, rather than understanding the technology itself. Because there are better people to
True.
understand technology and design or device, data, how data should be built up and what formats data should be available, so that easy decision making can be done, and right kind of action orientation happens from the marketing team.
True.
Right.
True, I think, and that's where, the entire ecosystem has to kind of evolve together, because the way India is growing and the, global vision of the industry leaders, we have to bring in, more innovation at a very rampant scale, and that requires specialists to come together, from an R&D perspective, from an implementation perspective, and more importantly from a leadership perspective. How do we bring these teams together and deliver, the outcomes at a much faster and a more accurate format? I think that's where we are. So I again, coming back, since you have also held such senior leadership positions, you have also been a vice president and a mentor at Heed India. Would you like to share some of your core values or guiding philosophies with upcoming leaders? Because I think that's another, area where it makes a huge difference, going forward in implementing such huge changes like AI or data implementation.
I think so. I have been guided by a few philosophies. First and foremost, I think so. In today's complex industry, human dynamics, it is very, very essential that we be just and fair to people. Right. That is the first aspect, I think so, which I am being guided by. That at any given point of time, you should be just and fair to people. This helps us build trust, right, and team building. This is first. The second factor, which I think so, over a period of time, you should also learn to be vulnerable. Today, vulnerability is not a weakness, vulnerability is a strength. uh, why I feel so is now technology. Now if I look at, probably I may not know technology better, but a product executive or a product manager who has just joined the organization may have better knowledge of the technology part of it, right? And I think so I should be able to express my weakness in terms of, that I do not know technology to that extent, which he knows, so I could learn from him. So being vulnerable
Yeah.
and being open to improvements is the second aspect, I think so, which has to be a guiding philosophy, that would help build again trust and relationship within the team. The third aspect, I think so, would be being upfront. It is always better to be upfront, give honest feedback. Of course, it could be whatever kind of feedback, in a sweet pill or maybe whatever way it should be. But I think so, being upfront would help. Fourth is being open to learning. I think so. That is another philosophy of leadership, which is very very important. I think so. From technology perspective, absorbing, willing to imbibe what technology is, uh, having no inertia of the past, that in past we used to do this, now we continue the same, not essential, because industry is changing so fast, so you have to be open to change. And finally, I think so, leadership style should oscillate between being democratic, laissez-faire, to being autocratic and micromanaging sometimes. Because when you want to deliver results for the organization, I think so it is very very essential that you adopt various kind of leadership strategies so as to generate results for the organization. So sometimes it also depends on what kind of followers you have, because those followers also elicit leadership from your end, and what kind of leadership you have to exhibit to them. Right. This is at macro level, and at macro level, I think so. Being a visionary, able to see what others are not able to see, that also becomes a very very important criteria. So open to change, open to learning. Yeah.
True. And I think the particularly the mindset of ever learning,
Yes.
engaging, and not assuming that the people who are junior to you are they cannot be more competent than us. I think that's a very fair ask. We have to keep upgrading our own selves all the time.
Time. And it need not be that you may be the best person in the team, in the room. You could have multiple other people who are better than you. As a leader, I think so it is our job to bring them together so that you can, as a team, collectively reach consensus and deliver best for the organization.
True, very true.
Right.
No, definitely. And you also don the hat of an investor. So definitely I would like to, question you a little bit on from that perspective also. As an angel investor with inflection point, how do you assess, there are a lot of pharmaceutical startups that are coming up in the Indian landscape. How do you assess them? Particularly, do you look at them from a lens of digital transformation and innovation? And do you look at their alignment on these areas of the market trends when you see their growth trajectory?
Yeah. See, there are a couple of things which I look at. First and foremost, as you rightly pointed out, what is that digital transformation? What kind of disruption is it aiming at? Right. And is this disruption or innovation really required in the marketplace? Because there are few disruptions which happen, or few innovations which happen, which do not have an ability to create an impact kind of, right. They may be a disruption, but they may not be like this. So I look at disruption and innovation from the point of view, whether it is from my lens, as an investor, whether it really would lead to disruption and innovation. That is one. Second is, I also tend to look at what kind of passion and what kind of resilience the person or the founding team and the founding members have. Because what I've learned over a period of time, that not every startup succeeds immediately. It takes some time, and that is where probably passion and resilience play a very important role. In terms of being consistent with the idea, because if there is strength in your idea, it may take some time, but it will not fail, right? So therefore these two characteristics become very very important, apart from all the financial parameters and the group mindset. And third is product and market need fit. That also becomes a very very important criteria from my lens. And then there is a gut feeling and there is an intuition rather than only data to where this may succeed or this may not succeed. So that is how it is.
True. I think, thank you for sharing that, from a perspective for the new startups, for the new innovations that are looking for funding. Definitely, they can keep that advice in mind. On a closing note, would you like to share any particular advice for our listeners, specifically those who are just starting their careers, how and what kind of changes they should anticipate in their journey? And of course, there's so many lessons that you have shared, but anything that you would advise them as the young generation?
What my advice would be, uh, I think so. One should adopt or embrace lifelong learning, right? Because with the kind and the quantum of change which is happening in the pharma industry, right, in the last couple of years, I was reading somewhere that the change which has happened in the last 2 years is equivalent to change which has happened in the last 30 years. So that is the kind of quantum of change. And unless and until you are not willing to embrace lifelong learning as a part of your strategy, I don't think so. We will be able to remain relevant because today, at every level, it may be a product executive or it may be a vice president marketing or otherwise. I think so. What is very very important is remaining relevant in today's scenario, right? Otherwise, competition would wash you out. And to remain relevant, I think so. Lifelong learning is one of the key factors. Uh, Unless and until you remain you embrace lifelong learning, I don't think so, and scope for you to grow. This is one. Second factor which is very very important according to me is we have to develop a patient centric mindset, because there's going to be a whole lot of generation which is going to come in. This is not going to be easy. This will take its own time, because the investments, the kind of technology which we need to adopt will take time. It is not going to be an overnight kind of a journey. But that mindset will, patient centric mindset, if we are able to evolve, probably the change would be better and relevancy would be better. And third is, I think so, we'll all have to be resilient in terms of whatever challenges we come across, we may fail, but I think so we have to stand back and deliver, right? So that is going to be two or three factors which I feel are going to be very very useful. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. for joining us today and sharing your really invaluable insights into the world of pharma. Not only marketing, leadership, patient centric care, we I think covered a whole breadth of topics. Your journey from on the ground experiences to a strategic leader in the industry is just truly inspiring. And we are very grateful for you sharing your practical advice and sharing it with our listeners and viewers today. For those tuning in, we hope today's conversation has given you a deeper understanding of the evolving landscape of pharma and the skills needed to navigate it successfully. Mr. Alhad's perspective on innovation, patient focused approach, and mentorship highlights the profound impact leaders like him are making on healthcare and the pharma industry. Thank you again, Mr. Alhad, for your time and being with us on the show. To our listeners, stay tuned for more insightful episodes as we continue to explore the future of pharma marketing and the powerful role of data and AI in shaping it. Till then, this is Saumya Prakash signing off. Stay tuned and stay innovative. Log on for more such insightful conversations. Thank you once again, Mr. Alhad,
Thank you so
and
much
we
for
had a
having me
wonderful
here. Thank you so
conversation.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us in this episode. We hope that the deep insights and knowledge shared today will help your business and brand grow by leaps and bounds. Remember to follow the podcast, and if you wish to know more about Multiplier AI solutions, please visit the links given in show notes.